You're not going to believe it, but it's 9 o'clock and it's a Saturday morning. Yes, that could only mean one thing. It's time for the Monster Magic Saturday Show. Let's do this.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning. Feel the sun shining for your eyes.
Woohoo! Good morning, everybody. And it looks like it's going to be a scorcher of a weekend, which will make a pleasant change from our traditional English summers. I hope you're all well. I hope you've all had a good night's sleep and it's ready for some wonderful Monster Magic reviews. And first up, we have Selfstarter by Carnazzo. Paul has been releasing quite a lot of stuff of late, usually only involving one card, normally a sort of plastic credit cards type thing, for which to do some mentalism effects. And this, again, only uses one card, but it's for card tricks. And it's a really clever idea, actually. It's a bit of a role reversal plot where you say to your participant that they are going to be the magician, they're going to do the magic, and you are simply going to be their spectator. So you give them this card, it's got self-working card tricks on it, and it's got 3 tricks on here. And so you can do a dealer card routine, a cut to card routine, or the 4 ace routine. You can do all 3 in a row if you like. You give them this, they read out the instructions to you, you follow along, and the tricks work. It's a really nice idea to give your spectator a way of participating, making them into participants rather than spectators. They do get to handle the deck a bit as well. It's not just reading the instructions, but you do most of the work. And there is a little bit of sneaky stuff that you have to do. So although this is called self-working card tricks, strictly speaking, they're not necessarily self-working. They do vary. The first one does involve a pass, doing a pass. But the best thing about that is Paul does run through how to do it, how to do a classic pass, and also how to do a Herman pass. If you do struggle with the classic pass, I think the Herman pass is slightly easier, and you're not shifting a huge block of cards. So you really are only shifting a small packet of cards. So it's easier than perhaps if a card has been replaced somewhere in the middle of the deck. And there is misdirection as well. So you've only got to do it whilst your participant is then looking down at the next instruction. So if you're only doing it for one person, one-on-one, you are definitely going to get away with it. If you're doing it for a group of people, they will generally be looking at the card and looking at the person who's speaking. So again, you'll get away with it too. And really the trick for doing this pass is it's under a lot of misdirection. Don't worry about it being completely invisible that we all get hung up on. Just do it casually, quietly, and relatively quickly. You've got all the length of time it takes someone to read a sentence, and really, even if you do a pass slowly, it takes less than a second. So you will be fine. So don't be put off by that. It's probably quite a good way of practicing doing something on the offbeat, doing something that perhaps you might be slightly uncomfortable with normally. So there's that, and also the final one involves palming some cards. Again, your participant will be your spectator, your person being the magician will be reading the card when you're doing that. So you should get away with that fine as well. And the replacing of the cards of the palmed cards is covered under the motivation of picking up the deck. So just keep eye contact with them whilst you're doing that and you'll be good to go. It's a great, the tricks are pretty strong. They're not the most powerful tricks in the world really. And they're sort of similar tricks with this plot. Sideswiped comes to mind by Simon Aronson, and I think Sideswipe is probably the strongest trick where you have an instructions card. But having said that, this is really neat. I quite like the way you get 3 routines out of it. It's nice, it's fun, it's a little bit of a different plot if you keep showing your friends and family tricks all of the time. And Paul's teaching and the details and the tips that he go into are terrific and great. And the teaching is clear, even though it's just Paul sitting on his own. He does do some close-ups. He tries to give you all of the angles, particularly on the pass and the Herman pass. The really nice thing is that it uses an ordinary deck of cards and with very little setup. You have to put a little bit of work into one card, but I do that in my deck anyway. So for me, it is just using my ordinary working deck of cards and just carry this card along, which can either fit in the card case or in between the cellophane of the card case or in your wallet, and you've got a great little 4 or 5 minute routine at hand. It is enjoyable to perform, and it's a great way of engaging your audience. If you've got more than one person, you can have the card passed around and they can each read out each step of the trick if you wish. That is Selfstarter by Paul Carnazzo, just $16.99. Next up, we've got Anything to Matchbox by Axel Vergnaud. I'm sure that isn't how you pronounce his name. I do apologise, Axel. That is the best I can do. This I like more than I think I probably should. This is a simple, innocent looking matchbox that is really a utility device. You can use it to have objects appear, to have objects vanish, to have them transform, to have them repair, to have predictions in, even for multiple outs, if you like. It really is a bit of a jack of all trades. Let me show you what you get so you can have a look at the matchboxes. So you actually get 2 matchboxes. One is completely innocent and ungaffed and everything else, and you get the gaffed one that matches. These look exactly like matchboxes. This isn't actually a striker bit. They point this out in the tutorial. This will not strike a match. It's just printed on, but you can buy, if you're particularly fussy and you want it to look absolutely legit, you can buy these strips off Amazon, for example, and just stick them on if you wanted to make it look better. But I think for shipping reasons, they didn't want it to have that striking strip. You also get a couple of extra board covers if you'd rather have this design. So these obviously just open up like so. So you get 2 different things. These look like the sort of thing you might get in a particular, they've got NY hotels, so the sort of thing you might get in a nice posh hotel. I haven't actually checked, but by the looks of it, I'm guessing these are just standard matchbox sizes, matchbox drawers. So if you wanted to use a particular brand or something local to your country, something that might be more familiar to your audience, then you can just swap out the cover. The cover has absolutely nothing to do with the trick. The trick is all done. The drawer is the part of the gimmick. And the gimmick is really, really simple, and it's very, very simple to use. You know, the shake appearance or the shake vanishes, and so the transformations with the visual shake, where the bigger movement basically covers the smaller movement. That's probably the riskiest move you can do with it, but I think it's quite startling, and I think unless you're going to keep repeating it for the same audience, it flies pretty well. But you get 5 routines with this. You get a impossible location, which is sort of like a Mercury card, folded card appears inside the matchbox. You can show the matchbox either's got a prediction in it right from the start, or you can do it where the prediction appears. It's up to you. They teach both versions. They teach a simple, torn and restored. They also teach a sort of serial number divination. There's quite a nice one where it's called Drawing to Reality, I think, where someone just sort of draws a £20 note or €20 note. You put that in the matchbox and it visually changes into a genuine note. You also get one which involves some double writing, which is a really nice plot and just shows the versatility of this little gimmick that's easy to carry around and looks completely innocent. But actually one of my favourite bits, and the bits that really got my imagination whirling, was when they showed a little ring vanish. You put a ring into the box, you can shake it a little bit so everyone knows that the ring's in there. You then open it up, show that the ring has vanished, and in all of that you've stolen the ring out and you can have it reappear anywhere you like. You could also do that with a signed coin, for example, or any sort of borrowed object that would fit inside the matchbox. So there is a lot of scope for you to develop your own routines with it. The problem really is that what you get taught, the impossible location, That's probably not as strong as using something like a vision box or any of the other clear boxes that you get. You could also very simply use Henry Harris's card to box, which then doesn't require you carrying around anything different. So alternative wise, so it's probably not the strongest version of that trick. And that's the sort of theme here. The torn and restored, again, it's not a signed card. It's not the most visual restoration in the world. Using it to switch a bill for the serial number is a nice idea, and it is easy to do. How you justify using the Matchbox is your guess. So what Anything to Matchbox is a really good jack of all trades. It's just not a master of any of them. I do like it. I can't help but think like the ring idea has got potential, but I'm also slightly put off by the price. It's $33.99, and I mean, I think a lot of that's gone on the packaging, and the gimmick is really simple. Just 2 matchboxes. You didn't really need the extra cover. They could have just been standard matchboxes, didn't really need to be printed. I just think it could have been reduce the cost a little bit, bring it down £5, and you've got something that people could buy and play with and get several routines out of. It's fun to play with. You can do some nice visual changes with it. It is very easy to do. It is well taught. It's just lacking that killer routine. That is Anything to Matchbox. $33.99. Now we have Impression Vanish by Peter Boie. Peter Boie. This I've been looking forward to getting into for quite a while. Penguin have kept it to themselves for far too long, in my opinion. I think they went out of stock of it and now they've restocked it. I'm surprised at how great the box is. I thought it was going to be very light on the packaging, but there you go. It's one of those nice Penguin boxes, nicely magnetized, and to keep everything safe. If you don't know the effect, you take a penny, it can be borrowed, and you put it on the table. You then cover it with a little bit of piece of paper and you get a pencil, and you rub the pencil over the penny through the paper, creating an impression. You then get a dab of water to remove the drawing, and when you pick it up, the coin has vanished as well. There is so much to like about this trick. It is really cleverly done and brilliantly motivated at every stage. It does actually date back to Tarbell. I'm not going to tell you which volume or where it is. If you've got Tarbell, you can go searching for it. But this is greatly improved and finessed by Peter Boie. Before we talk about the gimmicks, just the construction of the routine is great. In the setup of it and everything else, all of the dirty work is done. You are so far ahead of your audience before they even know what's going to happen. And Peter has been doing this for a long time. So the tutorial isn't by the usual Penguin stalwart of Nick Lecapo or Eric Tate. It is for Peter Boie himself. And that is a real bonus because Peter has been performing this for years, and his tips and his hints and his handling are really, really interesting. And also he gives away his script and how he gets into it, so you know exactly what to say and how to draw people in to introduce the idea of the penny. So that is terrific as well. What you actually get in the box is you get a pencil. These are easily replaceable. Peter tells you exactly where to buy this exact same pencil, which you can do worldwide. You also get some pieces of paper. This is standard printer paper. It's 3 inches by 3 inches. You can cut it out on a guillotine if you like, but there are alternatives, which I shall mention later. And you get a gimmick and a coin. Now, certainly if you're in America and a lot of other countries and you intend to borrow the coin, you are going to need to do a switch. This comes with an American US penny, which is fine. The problem with doing this switch is the switch is very easy. It's very motivated. Peter talks about it quite a lot, but coins come in all different tarnishes, don't they? So the idea of borrowing a coin that's going to match the one you're going to switch in aesthetically, I find slightly problematic. The good news is that I think in Europe and in the UK, we don't have to worry about it. You can just use any UK 1p that has been made since 1992. So anything older than 1992, the English penny is absolutely fine. And that means you can have it borrowed very easily without having to do any sneaky work. I think the idea of actually borrowing a coin these days, though, is getting a bit tricky anyway. Everywhere is going cashless, which I find very annoying, not just because of the magic. So in a way, I wouldn't really bother about borrowing it. I would just show it. You can have it examined, and Peter's script gives a good reason to let someone have a look at it. You can also have the pencil examined at the start if you like. The gimmick is designed so it can be ringed in and out very easily. And the glass of water you have to provide yourself. So that is also genuine, examinable, and can even be tasted if you so wish. Method-wise, it is really simple, straightforward, and easy to do, but you are going to want to practice it. Peter talks a bit about how to hold the pencil, how to hold everything, motivation, everything like that. He really does go into a lot of detail to make sure that you learn it properly and correctly and can get it down just right straight away. And the real thing you'll be trying to overcome when you're practicing is the sound. If you do it wrong, it can be quite noisy, either because of the gimmick or also because of the surface you're doing it on. I think even if you got really good at this, doing it perhaps in a library or a church isn't the best place. But in most social environments, you don't have to worry. I think this ticks so many boxes. It is a really powerful vanish of a small coin, surprisingly powerful. It is a surprising trick. Using just an innocent object as a pencil and a piece of paper and a little bit of water. It's got a little great hook as well and a great plot. Peter's script is really useful, and it's easy to do with just the right amount of practice to make it enjoyable and to give you a little bit of a dopamine hit of having learned something. The only real downside, and it is a very, very minor niggle, is that it's just a vanish. There is no reappearance. Whether you can figure out a way of having the coin reappear somewhere else is up to you, something you can work on. But if you are going to borrow the coin, it does mean that the lender is going to lose that penny. But it's a small price to pay for such a great trick. And that is Impression Vanish by Peter Boie, $24.99. Next up, it's Word Games by Chris Rawlins. God, it seems of late there have just been so many products that are basically trying to look like games that you might find or cards that you might find. Craig Petty has obviously had Mind Blocks and the Infinity Deck, and what was the one? There was one before with Emotions. I can't remember what it was called. Chris Rawlins is also someone who of late has been obsessed with the idea, and it really isn't a bad idea, and there is a lot of scope for it. Sometimes it feels like it's all slightly shoehorned in, but with so it's like Simon Says by Simon Lipkin, which actually is a genuine game that you start off playing. It can really legitimize the trick or the items that you are using. This does exactly the same thing. It looks so much like a genuine product, a genuine game that you might be, that people just wouldn't question it at all. And I think the idea of introducing that you're going to do some magic with an innocent looking prop rather than a deck of cards is great. It gets away from anyone remembering cards or knowing about cards. It is just letters, and it's not the first letter deck in the world by any means. It's not even the first marked letter deck by any means, so these cards are marked. The DMC Alphas have been out there for a while, but they look like playing cards, as Chris points out. When anyone has, even the bicycle ones and so on, they've got a standard bicycle deck. So even though you're using letters, it still looks like a deck of cards, and everyone knows that magicians can manipulate cards and do card tricks. This feels a lot less like a card trick than anything that you might do with a set of DMCs or bicycle alphabet cards, because of just how they're designed. And the marking is genius. I do need glasses. I can just about make it out without them at a distance. So you can read them at a distance, despite the markings being relatively small. I think the choice of font is really clever. The positioning of the mark is absolutely genius and will fly by. And also, if you just look at the back of the cards, for example, there's one, there we go. Look at that. It is so plain and blank. Where would you hide a mark? It is just seems impossible for this card to be marked in any way. So it flies by, despite the fact you can see it very quickly, which is really what you want. I think the design is beyond question, and it's really nice. I know Phil Smith does a lot of work in designing marked decks, but they always tend to look a little bit busy. And this just looks so innocent. They are also beautifully printed. They are bridge size. You don't really do any sleights with them. So Chris teaches 4 routines. All of the routines, I think, are really, really good and varied. So you can take your pick of which one. But do watch, when you're watching the routines, watch Chris's presentation, see how relaxed he is, see how he performs it. Because even though you're essentially doing a card trick, it's the mentalism presentation that really makes them so strong. And most of the tricks are virtually self-working with a little bit of help from the cards. The first trick that Chris teaches is a 3-phase routine, in fact, called Idio, and it's sort of based on sort of muscle reading and looking at someone's reactions. It starts off with you simply divining the letter of the card that they've chosen. You then divine a word, that word's picked from the back of the box, and then finally, which is a lot of fun, you find an object that starts with one of the letters that they've chosen. The second routine is called Favourite Word, and I think this is going to be the most popular routine to do with these cards. The cards are dealt down into piles and they spell a favourite word. When Chris performs it, he does it to spell the man's name, your participant's name. If you just find out whose that name is, you can virtually set it up on the fly. Doesn't have to be prearranged. You don't have to know the day in advance or anything like that. And then you can spell down to their name. It doesn't have to be their name, of course. It can be any word. And if you're doing it for mates down the pub, it can be as rude as you like. But bear in mind, this deck contains 2 sets of the alphabet. So you've only got 2 of each letter. So you are slightly limited with what word you can actually spell or what name you can spell. Deeper Foundation is a drawing duplication using these cards. The cards are used to find the first and the last letter of whatever they're going to draw, and then you draw it. A really, really strong, powerful mentalism routine, which is very clever and super strong. If you're looking for the strongest trick on the routine, I think it's probably Deeper Foundation. And finally, you've got a great sort of double production where an object or 2 objects are spelt using these words and they appear from the card box. A really, really fun routine with 2 amazing revelations. It is slightly involved to set it up. Not a big deal, but you can't do it really walk around. But if you've got some mates about, you can quickly do it, and I think you'll get a real buzz at performing it and get some massive reactions. The tutorial is an hour long and it is very thorough. I think Chris tries to be concise, and I think actually genuinely he is concise. He's just got a lot of detail he wants to give you. He doesn't want to miss anything out, and he wants you to perform it as well as possible. So even though the mechanicals of all 4 tricks are pretty easy and straightforward, he talks, you know, he wants to teach you the nuances as well. So there is a little quick start guide at the start, which is, you know, a quick 5-10 minutes just explaining the cards and how they work. And then from then on, if you've got any tricks that you think you might do with these cards, you'll be good to go and you don't have to watch the rest. But I actually think you'll struggle to find routines better than the 4 that Chris teaches. Certainly the power punch ratio to the work that you do is astonishing. A really well designed and produced deck of alphabet cards that comes with 4 routines that are highly entertaining. That is Word Games by Chris Rawlins, £35. And finally, I just want to mention Encyclopedia of Card Tricks by Glen, Gravett, edited by Jean Hugard. This book, as you can tell, has been with me ever since I started in Magic, and I've just been rereading it again this week. It is full of miracles, but although it's an encyclopedia of card tricks, what it really taught me was it explained things to do with almost every gaffed deck or every style of gaffed card that you can. So if you're going to do a trick with a Svengali deck or the Many Tekel deck, or even just a short card in general, you'll find this as an absolute brilliant resource. If you want to do something with rough and smooth, they'll find it in here. It's even got a little chapter on essential sleights. It's still got the simple pass I use from here, which I learned many years ago. That just flies by, and you've got the do as I do tricks, the chapters. There's just so much in this book. Mysteries with special decks. It's got things on how to do things with stacks as well, simple stacks. Also the Nicola card systems in here as well, which is slightly more involved. Stripper decks, you know, reversed cards, spelling tricks. This is, if you want to do something, if you want to learn some simple impromptu tricks, it's in here. If you just want to learn what you can do with a double facer or anything like that, this book has got it in here. I come back to this all of the time, and it is only $14.99. You will get so much knowledge from this. I was speaking to someone on the phone, and he said Magic is a marathon, not a sprint. And this book is the sort of thing you pick up on your way, much like marathon runners do when they're grabbing a little swig of water, a little energy bar, just to keep you going, just to keep your imagination flowing, just to keep you interested and thinking of new ideas to do with some old gaffs. That is Encyclopedia of Card Tricks, Glen Gravett, edited by Jean Hugard, $14.99.
Hey, you old fool! You slept through the show! Who's a fool? You watched it!
And that's it for today's show, I'm afraid. I hope you finished your breakfast. If I was you, I'd slap on some suntan lotion, grab some magic, and go out there and have some fun with the best hobby in the world. Goodbye.